I'd like to welcome everybody to a series of videos that we're doing. We've got a group of food service professionals gathered because we are in a bit of a crisis with the restaurant industry. We've identified some opportunities, and we know that people are needing to transition their full service establishments temporarily to delivery or pickup options. And so knowing the challenges that these restaurants are going to face, we've gathered several experts to discuss some topics that we've identified as being extremely pertinent and time sensitive. So I'm going to go around and have you introduce yourselves. I'll go first. My name is Luke, and I've been in the marketing brand building side of the industry for quite some time, and hope to bring value on the social side so that operators can get their message and their offerings out to the audience.
Mike MIRARCHI. I'm a non-foods person for over 30 years, also in distribution business as well on the distribution side, from wholesalers to from manufacturers to wholesalers, and but mostly the non-foods.
Hello, I'm BRODY SWEDBERG. I have 9 years of food service experience, ranging from selling across the country in both a sales capacity and a marketing capacity.
And Tim?
Tim LABONTE, a chef, and I have been in kitchens for nearly 30 years now.
Gentlemen, if we can dive right into this, our goal is to create some concise nuggets on a few topics that hopefully operators can take something away from to help their business, as I said, during this challenging time. So our first topic is we're dealing with the need to transition from full menus to maybe limited delivery menus, and the challenges that operators are going to face while doing that. And Tim, if I'm going to have you kick this off first, because I know this is something you've been thinking about.
Yeah, you know, obviously not an easy transition for anybody, especially with the time frame of a snap of a finger, ultimately. But for me, I think not that there's an easy way to do this, but I think it all has to do with taking a little bit of time, whether it be a couple hours, and, you know, inventorying what you have and what you have to work with at that particular point. And, you know, taking another hour and sitting down with your team and creating a menu that you can produce consistently in as few steps as possible, with potentially as little staff as possible. I also think that a big key to successfully doing this is being very limited in your menu selections. What you want to put out there, what speaks to your platform, what are customers looking for when they're coming or ordering takeout from you or having delivery from you. What are their expectations? Hold true to who you are. Don't reinvent the wheel. Keep doing what you're doing, but only do it very limited. Because ultimately some places you'll see 20, 30 menu items, and just to go into it with the mindset that you want to produce all those items for your takeout, grab and goes, or whatever it may be, is just, it might be too much to take on at this point. So do your inventory, make your menus, and then just put it into motion at that point. But stay true to who you are. Look, it's a situation that everybody's in, so no matter what part of the food and beverage industry you work in, everybody's in it together, and everybody wants everybody else to succeed. So I think that, you know, with the restrictions that are being set forth for the food and beverage industry, I would like to assume that clients of the particular establishment are going to be very open to what they have, and very welcome to support them.
I think people are looking to get out of the house. You know, we're already stuck for a few days in the house, and I think people are looking to get out to do something and to pick up a meal certainly could be one of those things. And I think that operators, Tim said, I think is important to focus your menu, but then also, how do you offer something that is in that wheelhouse that could maybe make things nicer or better for your people, such as, we've heard of a pizza parlor that's offering a pizza kit, and they're selling that so that the folks that are going to they'll pick up a pizza kit and go home and make that together as a family. Or, if you're an Italian restaurant and you make sauce, you might want to consider selling your sauce bulk and allowing customers to just buy that. So there needs to be some creativity around the things that you do well, and then think about a different way maybe to package those items and sell them, and offer, even bulk soups, I think would be a popular item if you can put those in the right containers and be able to sell those out as well. So it's narrowing your focus and then getting creative on how you present that to your customers as well.
And Brody?
I agree with both of them wholeheartedly in this. I think whatever your operation is, you need to take a good hard look at what you can reproduce consistently and effectively while still keeping your operations identity, but then to take it one step farther and make sure you can execute that by the time your customer gets that product home, because they're going to appreciate the fact that you're open and trying. But once they bring it home, is it good? Is that a good representation of your operation? And so when you're scaling that menu back, you may not be able to do your one signature dish because it doesn't translate well. So if they do their due diligence on the front end, I think regardless of urban or rural, what your customer base likes, why they're coming to you. Pare it down to items hopefully that are your signature for sure, but that can be executed, and when your customers get back, bring the product home, that they're able to enjoy it like they would at your establishment. That would be my thing. I think that's great advice from Michael and Chef Tim. I think the one final step in that is make sure that it translates once it gets to the end user's house, because that's an important part of it. I think we've all had takeout where we've been less than impressed by the time we actually got it home. And so if you're going to make that effort, make sure that you're putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Knowing that for most locations now, restaurants have been told to just do takeout and delivery, we're probably looking at restaurants that want to continue to serve their customers that haven't traditionally done a big takeout or any delivery business whatsoever. So they're now having to consider packaging challenges to, as you said, Brody, make their food stay up to the quality that their patrons would expect. Mike, what kind of considerations do people look at? You're the non-foods expert in the packaging side.
Yeah, so one of the things that we say before this all happened is that if you're putting a takeout packaging program together, you have to consider that your takeout packaging needs to mirror what you were doing inside your operation from a quality standpoint. So if you're a fine dining establishment that your waiters, they wore tuxedos and you offer fine dining and you served on fine china and the like, you would want your takeout packaging to mirror that. And so it's not much different here, where now all of a sudden you're transitioning to 100% takeout, and now delivery services become that much more important because you'll be utilizing them. So there's a few considerations. And that is, first of all, the quality of the food that gets to where it's going needs to be able to hold up and be as close as possible as in the dining room. Now, you do have some limitations because sometimes it takes longer for that food to get to the home than it would in a restaurant. But you want to try to keep the integrity and quality as good as possible from the time it leaves your restaurant until the time it gets home and the time it's enjoyed. So the quality of the packaging is really important. And depending on the type of food that you're putting in there, so for example, if you're putting French fries in a foam takeout container and it's going to sit for 40 minutes, which is entirely possible, you're not going to have a good quality product at the end of the line. So you may want to consider a container that's either opened on top or has venting of some type to allow the steam to escape and allow the French fries to be better tasting at the end of the day. So I think you, depending on what your menu looks like, and you could certainly work with your DSR on this to find packaging that's going to complement what you're doing on the food side, so that you get from point A to point B as good as possible. The one other consideration I would suggest is you really need to think about food security, because now your food is in many cases going to be delivered by a delivery service possibly, and if that's the case, we know that 28% of Uber drivers admitted eating food out of the bag. So if we know that's the case, then we really have to be careful, especially in these times, that your food is secure. And there's many different things that are now coming out, many different products that are available for you to be able to make sure that your food is secure. And it could be as simple as putting a piece of masking tape over the bag to make sure that, it's some type of a seal. And if that masking tape is broken, then, you will know that maybe it's been tampered with. So that would be my recommendation on the container side of it.
I think that's a great takeaway. And if we're offering bullet points to any operators that are watching this, ask your DSR, ask your sales rep from your distributorship what security options they have available for food. I know there are new bags that have hit the market that have a seal on the top. I know that there are labels that kind of break apart if you try to tamper with them. There are options out there, and if nothing else, put it in that brown paper bag and staple it right up. But at the end of the day, I think to bring a social aspect into this, I think it's very important for operators to go to their social channels and share how they're packaging their food, show any precautions that they're taking, and really set the minds of their customer at ease with the preparation, the packaging, and the delivery of their food.
Right.
Anybody have any other thoughts on transitioning from the full service menu to a meal delivery menu? Tim, any final thoughts on?
Yeah, I would definitely like to add to that. I personally believe that the price points that you offer your food at are going to make a big selling point as well. I mean, for me, when I go out for dinner, which is not very often, like when it's a nice dinner on a Saturday night with my wife, we have no problem spending $120 on dinner for two, where we're just like having multiple courses, where I just really think that as we're in a really strict plan B, I don't know if you, no matter what level you're at, are going to be able to ask for those same price points. So I think just be diligent and be cautious with your pricing, and that translates to when you're preparing your menu for this grab and go and delivery service as well. Just be very cognizant of the price points, because I think that'll make a big difference. And that kind of translates into your packaging as well. I mean, if you're getting like really high-end packaging, that's great. Your food deserves it if you feel that way. But that's going to translate into the price that you're going to have to charge your customers as well. And I hate to say this is an opportunity, but it's an opportunity. This right now is an opportunity in the stage that we're in for them to have repeat customers, because a lot of people aren't going to have huge stockpiles of food in their freezers. Some will. Some are going out there and buying 12 gallons of milk, but others won't. So they might be using these services a little more frequently than they would be dining out. So to keep that in mind as well, I think might be a good point.
It's really becoming a matter of trust. In if you can trust that the location you're getting your food from, in the operation is, first of all, maintaining sanitation properly, and as well as taking steps to make sure that they're not contributing to the spread of the virus. If you can gain their trust in that, and you can gain their trust in the fact that the food is delicious, Tim is absolutely right. You'll gain customer loyalty.
I think there's an opportunity there with both. I think as if food service operators are being honest about the cost of packaging, especially if they don't traditionally do a delivery or takeout business, I think customers will be okay with that. If you put, a $3, packaging charge on there, and you just tell people, hey, this is what it's going to cost to get you our quality food in the way that you want to eat it. I think they'll be okay with that. What do you think?
I would agree 100%. And I think it's, we see that all around is transparency. People want transparency in their food. You had a great point where, I believe Mike did, trustworthiness of the establishment. I'm going to go where I know the kitchen's clean, the food is consistently good. We've got a few restaurants like that around where I live. I would have no problem if they did the takeout part of it correctly, ordering that, and then understanding the pricing aspect of it. There's a convenience tax on this stuff, and I think everybody who's going to be ordering out and doing takeout is well aware of that. It's not business as usual right now, but the more transparent an establishment can be, from, hey, this is our clean kitchen, our staff is healthy, feels good. I think that kind of stuff, even if it feels a little bit like over communicating, is not necessarily a bad thing right now, especially with the regulars. It helps help people feel good. It's a weird time. So if you can help some of your customers feel good about the decision they've made to come buy your food, then I don't see anything wrong with that. Clarity in what you're doing is huge.
There's an opportunity, I think, in using video now more than ever, to show people behind the curtain, to show them your operation. And you don't have to beat it over the head, but if they see you in your video putting on gloves or wearing gloves where you're packaging that food, that's going to be extra security in the back of their minds. And again, we don't have to beat it over the head that we're doing all these things. Not to say you're going to take a thermometer and check all your employees on Facebook Live. Might not be a bad thing to show. I don't know. Maybe it's too extreme. But the idea is just show them behind the curtain and give them that sense of confidence. And really my last thought on this, on the marketing side of it, is, to Brody's point, we are in a weird situation. There is no rule book for this. I think we need to make it as easy as possible for people to place these to-go orders, to read the menus. To Tim's point of simplifying your menu and really going to your strengths is key. And when you're looking at your pricing, maybe try to just round to the nearest dollar. Let's cut out all the 95 cents, $1.39, whatever it's going to be. Just make it, if it's $9.99, make it $10. If it's $19.99, make it $20. And just keep it simple, so when people look at this, they can make quick decisions. They're not doing a bunch of math in their heads, and they know that they can feed a family of 2, 5, whatever, and this is what it's going to cost them. That's what the delivery cost is. Everybody's clear, everybody's happy, and everybody gets food.
And one point to that, Luke, as well. One of the things that restaurants should consider is a prepay option, so that they're not handling money, because obviously the more you can reduce the amount of handling back and forth, the better. And so if you offer a prepay option for takeout and delivery, then you're eliminating that one extra handling of the money back and forth, or the credit card or whatever. So I would highly recommend doing prepay for your takeout and delivery.
Absolutely. And that's something that if you don't have an online ordering system set up, you can take the card over the phone. If you want to go that extra step, there are services out there where you can download, and people can use things like Apple Pay or Venmo or Android Pay and those types of services. This is a time to get creative, to come up with solutions that are going to work for your customer base, and then get your message out there. I'm going to go ahead and move us on to the next topic now. Oh, go ahead, Brody.
I did have one more point to that, just to kind of wrap it up. I think it's an important one. Everybody on this call understands the importance that food can play as far as even healing, bringing people together. If an operation takes the time and does the takeout delivery process correctly, they have a wonderful opportunity to help people in their communities feel normal again, bring some normalcy to really kind of an odd situation, something that's unprecedented, and very few people have ever experienced anything like it. So I wanted to bring up that point because that is something that can really help communities if they do it correctly. And I think it'll establish loyalty and all the other good things along with that. So
awesome. That's a great point. So our next topic, and we're going to offer this video as a whole and then also as segments so people can take these chunks in. I'm going to move us on now to what can I sell? You know, effective menu planning. Tim, I'm going to have you kick this one off. And the challenge is when people look at, you know, I've seen menus that are, you know, 50 items deep and, you know, the appetizer page alone is 30 things. What are some considerations that people have to make, these operations have to make as they're considering what's going to be an effective takeout item? And I know we touched on the idea of going to your strengths, but what does that look like if we dive a little bit deeper?
Is this something that you can produce and then it'll hold up well when you get it home? That's one of the big things. I think that it's also important to know that there are certain things that you just probably don't want to serve in a to-go situation. I mean, if you're an oyster bar, it's kind of hard to serve raw oysters and pack them to travel. You know, raw seafood for that point as well. Not all. I mean, there are some great sushi restaurants that really know what they're doing. Their packaging is down and locked in. So the stuff like that is fine. But if they're items that you're not accustomed to serving as a takeout, then I would probably second guess those and, you know, stick to that which you are comfortable with and you know that are going to be home runs every time they get home and open up those packages and dig in. Yeah, that's.
The other thing is on that, and those are really great points. And I would recommend that is to take and cook your food, put it in your packaging, wait about 30 minutes, and then actually try it.
Yeah.
Really important that you get different packages because not every package is going to act the same. You could put it in a foam container, wait 30 minutes, and you're going to get a certain quality food. You could put it in a different type of container that seals better and has venting and wait 30 minutes, and it's a completely different product. So I think it's really important for you as the operator to understand what your food's like when it gets to your customer. And so I really highly recommend you trying different containers out and see which one works best with the food that you're trying to serve so that you make sure that you're getting the best quality product. But you, as the operator, need to know that. You really need to understand what that's going to look like when it gets to your customers.
Yeah, so, you know, it's typical menu development. You know, you come up with menu ideas and you put it forth and then you try it. So same holds true here.
I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but this might be, again, an opportunity for some non-traditional approach to what is being offered. And just because you've got your full menu doesn't necessarily mean that that's what your takeout scenario needs to look like. For example, let's say you've got a kid's menu and on it's spaghetti and you've got a pantry full of spaghetti. You could do family meal kits where you're sending the cooked pasta, the sauce separately, you know, garlic bread, and, you know, a takeout container of Parmesan cheese so that families can do, you know, a spaghetti dinner night. Like it's great to go to your strengths, and if you're known for your chicken wings, you know, you double down on your chicken wing delivery. But at the same time, if you have the capability to build meals that are gonna feed families and feed individuals, that is something that it's okay to look at as well. This is, to overuse the term, we're in a non-traditional space where we need to get creative. And I think it's okay to maybe think outside the box on that.
And don't forget the dessert, by the way. You know, right now at this time, people are stocking up with different types of food. I don't know how much chocolate they're stocking up on right now, you know, so, and it's an extra treat. And if you can offer your signature dessert out on a takeout and make sure, or you might want to sell a whole cake that you make, you know, and sell the cakes themselves. But I think it's really important to offer that extra goodie for them, because the treats really matter right now. It's how, you know, we maintain, and somebody else used this point, some normalcy. And if you can get a nice dessert and enjoy it, you know, it's a little extra pleasure right now where things aren't necessarily so pleasurable.
And to circle back around to, I think it was Brody's point on the normalcy, which I think is a great point, but it holds true to, yes, chocolate as well, one of my favorites. I have a hard time without it, and I haven't stockpiled. You made me think about it now. I'm going to run to the I'm going to run past the toilet paper and go right to the top. But anyways, all joking aside, I think comfort food could be really big as well. I mean, you know, I mean, it's called comfort food for a reason. It makes you feel at comfort. It's reminiscent of, you know, something that you might have grown up eating, whether it be a shepherd's pie, American chop suey, mac and cheese, things like that. That's not to say that, depending on your platform, you can't be creative with those things. I mean, there are a million different ways to make a mac and cheese. Same thing with an American chop suey or a shepherd's pie, and the list goes on. I'm just targeting those three things, but comfort food, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to package it in like half-size aluminum containers with a foil lid as a larger option, because now you've got families in the house. You've got more than one person usually, and so there is an opportunity, and I think there'll be a need for people to buy not just single meals for each person, but maybe a half pan of lasagna or a half pan of something else that you can offer them.
Mm-hmm.
Brody, I want to toss a question out to you. What are your thoughts on offering additional stuff outside of just the food, if an operation is capable of doing that? I don't know what comes to mind, but, you know, additional napkins and wet naps. I know in some cities and states, you can actually deliver alcoholic beverages. So is this an opportunity maybe for operators to look outside that scenario too?
I think, to the point earlier, be as creative as you possibly can. If you're allowed to sell them a pre-made gin and tonic with their pizza or whatever you're selling them, go for it, because it's all bets are off right now. If you are open, you have to find a way to stay busy and bring some money in. And so whatever you can do, as far as the extras go, and be profitable, then I think that's what you have to look at. Those are the avenues. I mean, maybe it's, you know, they start buying 2 liters and sell 2 liters with that stuff than they've ever done before. I like the idea that, you know, I'd pick up a 6-pack with a pizza if they'll deliver it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you're allowed to do it. And so I think it's just, for each operator, they got to look so closely at their situation, what they can execute properly, and make it taste good. And then how do they think outside and offer something that hasn't been offered before? And that's going to be the hard part, because we all get so set in our ways. This is how we've done it. We've always done it this way. Well, now we've never come across something like this. And so the ability to think about something different and bring value to your customers, that's what you have to do. And if that's throwing in, you know, for an extra $1, you get 10 wet naps, you know what? All of a sudden they're going to have clean doorknobs in their house. They've got kids running all over the place because they can't go to school. I mean, little things like that, absolutely. And so, and maybe those will turn out to be big things too, but also be things that people don't forget. And so that's valuable. That's valuable, but it's going to be a constant reevaluation, what's working and what's not, because this is all uncharted territory.
That's a great point. You know, 10 extra wet naps could go a long way. And if that's something that the operation feels that they need to sell to maintain, you know, their margins, that's one thing. If it's something that they can give away, you know, you're almost guaranteeing a return customer, you know, when the situation has subsided. And my last point on this, and it's not really a what can you sell, but it's a don't forget to include, for any operations that aren't traditionally doing delivery and takeout, or don't have them printed, include your takeout menu. If it's the temporary takeout menu and you can print that and include it, maybe staple that to your traditional takeout menu, and maybe have a date for whatever period of time you plan on running this temporary takeout menu. But the more information you can give them about your business, your food now, the more likely they are to come back to you later. Anybody have any other thoughts on this topic before I move us on?
You may want to even add something like a roll of toilet paper and offer that for sale as well.
I have seen that. I've seen that thrown out there before. It was a donut shop. Buy a baker's dozen of donuts and get a roll of toilet paper.
Sure.
Not a bad idea. They're gonna
make sure it doesn't correlate with the meal you're selling them.
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so we've kind of touched on this as well. Takeout packaging that works. So this will be a little bit of a more deeper dive, gentlemen, into the different types of takeout packaging, just so operators are aware. And I know that has been a hot button topic for the last couple of years in the industry as we begin to transition away from foam into greener products, but also more functional products. We're seeing more sizes available that make things like sauces and sides easier to get to customers without your food all spilling over each other and turning into this homogeneous pile of stuff.
Yeah, so, you know, foam containers have been banned all over the place. And, you know, from an environmental standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, now, you know, there is a cost benefit to buying a foam container, and I'm not saying a foam container isn't the right product for whatever you're trying to sell. So I really think that the main point in this is that you really need to evaluate what you're selling and then use the best container for that job. There's no universal container that I could tell you that this one's the works the best, because it really depends on what you're trying to sell. And like I said, so foam containers might be the right choice. The one thing that you have to consider, though, is your food will definitely be traveling. And, you know, if you look at, for example, Chinese restaurants and what they do, because they do 95% of their business carry out, take a look at how they package things. They're using paper bags. They're using polypropylene heavy-duty containers. They're using some really good packaging, and they have some really good ideas because they know their food travels. And for what you're trying to do, that might be the best option, or it might not be. There's been containers that have come out that offer, it's almost like you're eating a meal. When you take the lid off and you tear it off, the lid has a perforation and it will tear off, and you're able to almost eat that as what you are, as a plate and as a meal. So you have containers like that. I would just say that the best thing that you can do is consult with your DSR. They have the options, and really work with them and talk through the different things. And they have some expertise that they'll be able to help you to find the right containers. And then finally, the most important thing is to make sure you test those containers so that what you're trying to serve is going to come out right.
What do you think, Tim?
You know, I fully agree with all those points. Are all great points. He's the expert in the takeout container industry. I would say that diversity in your packaging could be very important as well. How do you want to present it? Is it something that you feel that it's kind of like one of those really big meals where they might want to microwave it the next day? So you might want to take stuff like that into consideration. If they do have leftovers, is that packaging able to be put in the microwave for a minute and a half to reheat it? Might also want to give suggestions on reheating your items if you are the type of establishment that has, you know, like the full meal deal, like the giant piece of lasagna. You know, I would recommend, you know, putting it in the microwave, putting a splash of water on it, and putting it in the microwave for a minute and a half. But anyways, to the packaging, I think it's important to have diversity in your packaging. If it fits your platform, being as if you do think it would be a situation where they're not just going to eat it all when they get home, there might be a situation where they might have leftovers to reheat the next day.
Or even put in the freezer. So if you're selling a lasagna and you put it in a container, and you think that that's going to go home and go in the freezer, then you want to make sure that that container is will hold up in the freezer. So it's considerations like that. I can't really give you a solid recommendation on anything right now because it all really depends on what you're trying to do. But like I said, that's where your DSR becomes a really valuable resource.
I would add to that, to state the obvious. Okay, when I talk to our customers about social media, the most beneficial thing they can share with their customers is the stuff that they do every day. Nobody does what an operation does like they do. And when you are sending out your takeout packaging, to Tim's point, provide instructions if there are reheat instructions, if certain ingredients go together, if you're reassembling a dish and you've sent the individual things, that's great. If the takeout packaging works, if you could wash it, if it's dishwasher safe, if microwavable, ovenable, let the customer know, include a little note in there. Hey, you can save your leftovers in these containers. They make great storage containers. Those little tidbits, while they might seem obvious, because you said them to the customer, because you put that in a note that went into the packaging, that you've now given that customer a gift. You've now given them some knowledge, and you've made them feel like, wow, they really care about me. I'm glad I ordered from this company. And it seems like it's such a small thing, but I promise you it goes such a long way to just be open and honest. And sometimes stating the obvious has a good effect. All right, we're going to move on to our next topic now. And this is effective messaging to your customers. And again, as we've progressed along, we've kind of touched base a little bit on all of these. And what we're going to do is we're going to break them up into segments. So we're going to reiterate some of these points that we've already covered. But as you're talking to your customers on social media, on your web platforms, on the phone, you want to continually reinforce messages about your business, about your food, about the situation we're in, that are going to reassure your customer. So I'm going to open it up to the team here. Brody, I'm going to go to you first. What are some of those messages that you think customers want to hear from their restaurants?
I think they want to know if you're open for business.
One right there, yeah.
Are you open, and how are you communicating that? Is it just on social media for somebody like me who's not on social media? Do you have a billboard? Do you have a sign that you could be utilizing? Are you handing takeout menus out when you're out and about? What are you doing above and beyond some of the normal things that you can help share some of that information? So, but are you open? That's going to be the one that I think is going to be really relevant here sooner than later in the next few days. Can we get food from you?
It's a great point. Tim,
Yeah.
what do you think?
No, I absolutely agree with that, but I think that it's important to really think ahead of the situation we're in right now too, especially as restaurants they would have normally been preparing for their spring menus and summer menus and stuff to that such. But, if they're open, obviously the customer wants to know that. But I think with social media, which you really press, I think it would be advisable, maybe fun for the customers, create some sort of excitement to when this is over, this is what we're working on. Check out this dish. We're working on it. We're tasting X, Y, and Z, showing pictures of it. You're creating your menu. So when this is over, you're actually creating excitement about what's to come next as well. So I think those might be some good things to target. Kind of like looking at the plan C, what happens after. Instead of just going back to maybe what you might have been serving for the winter and just like focusing on the now. And I understand with everything that's going on, it's hard to focus on the beyond the now just because of the way everything is. But if you can find a little bit of time to create and add excitement and some forward momentum to help you once this is over, good for you.
That's a great point. We have an opportunity, and it's an unfortunate one, but it's still an opportunity in that there is a captive audience out there. We have people at home, you know, and there's only so much Netflix that you can consume in a day. People are going to want to see what's happening out in the world. And if your customers are following you on any number of social platforms, you can talk to them. You can, in essence, entertain them during this time, but you can also get that message across. So as Tim was saying, here's what we're planning. Here's what our, you know, we're using this opportunity to look at our menu, and, you know, we're going to have a celebration bash and, you know, this summer, and, you know, don't necessarily put hard dates on things, but, you know, make people think about, you know, when things are going to be smiling and happy times again, and, you know, put people's minds at ease. And in doing so, you will stay top of mind with your customers and potential customers.
One thing, just one more consideration is that, or two actually, make sure you're updating all your pages. So your Yelp, you know, anywhere that you have your menus out there, make sure that everything is updated to what you're currently doing. So your updated menu, your updated hours, any type of statements you want to make about we're open, all those platforms need to be updated so that everything is relevant, so that when people look on there, they get accurate information, number one. Number two, I would suggest using traditional snail mail to maybe do a mailing around your neighborhood and mail a menu out to say, hey, we're open, and here's what we have. And so that way you're getting a menu into people's hands. And now mail becomes important again, because this is something they're getting to the house, they get to open it. And so I think that could actually be a very effective way to get your message out right now.
That's a great, you can't forget snail mail. I also fully believe in radio advertising. I think radio works for food service. You know, don't buy into the whole, they'll do a package deal and you get social media and radio and all that. You know, do your own social. But if you have the means to buy some radio time, I think it's an effective tool, especially given different markets. And Brody, you had something to add there?
I did. I really liked Chef Tim's comment about how you're going to be planning ahead and start letting people know what here's when this is all over, look at what we're going to do. Is there a way that an operator can think outside of the box and let some of the customers help influence what they're going to do? Is there a way to still keep the customer base somewhat engaged through their social media and through some of those different avenues to help let them kind of influence this too? To your point, I've got two kids sitting in the living room doing schoolwork. This is day number 3, and there's no end of this in sight. And so different things that families can do to come together and be creative and just do something different amongst the mundane of being trapped in the house. Maybe that's a way for certain operators with the right kind of establishment. And
what would everybody like to see for tomorrow's entree? You know, shepherd's pie or spaghetti dinner, you know, and then you make, you know, dozens of whatever is voted for that night. Just kind of have fun with it. That's a really interesting point, Brody. I like that. And before we go on to the next topic, I just wanted to touch on Mike's excellent point about updating your platforms. There are potentially dozens of platforms that you could be linked into with your business. Yelp and TripAdvisor are two of the most important for discovery and review of food service operations. So if people are looking for food and they're going to those platforms, if you're one of the first operators that goes on there and updates your takeout menu, that adds pictures of your beautifully packaged food, that shows, you know, your person ready to take it out the door, those first images are going to be what customers and potential customers see as they go to find food. So if you look prepared and you are ready to go, people will gravitate towards that and choose your establishment. All right, excellent. I'm going to move us on to the last point here, which is maximizing your resources and labor. And the consideration here is we might not be at full staff capacity for some operations if people are out sick, because I know all food service operations are encouraging anybody with the slightest inkling that they've exposed themselves or are feeling ill to not come to work, to not put their fellow coworkers or customers at risk. So you could be facing a labor shortage. The other side of this too is you could be feeling the financial pinch of not having the same foot traffic through your door. So you have to make the decision to reduce or temporarily reduce your labor force. And Tim, I'm going to turn this over to you. What are some considerations operators should be looking at in the short term for labor?
You know, now is a really great time to really start looking at items such as labor savers, something that might take 1 or 2 steps out of the equation for you, but still allow you to maybe add your own little twist to it. It could be some, you know, it could be steak that's par cooked, for instance, or it could be a fresh made pasta gnocchi that, you know, normally you have the time to make your own gnocchi or tortellini or whatever it may be, and people know that about your establishment. If you're losing staff members, it doesn't really become feasible at that point to continue to do things like that, even though you want to. That's where, in my opinion, labor savers come into play, where there are thousands of really great, respectable products out there to meet your every needs at any platform, as far as I'm concerned.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think things like pre-cut vegetables and some of those items that maybe you wouldn't normally use, you're just not going to have the people maybe to be able to do those tasks. And so when you look at each task that you have in your restaurant, you really need to break it down and say, how can we do this the most efficient as possible? How can we, you know, eliminate steps? And I think it's truly just looking at every aspect of your operation and understanding how you could do it more efficient and better and easier.
One of the things that I know most people are considering when they're feeling the pinch is we don't necessarily want to let folks go, even if temporarily. I would suggest exploring the potential for the redistribution of labor to put people into tasks that, if we're going all in on these takeout to go meals, you know, let's take our front of house staff and have them, you know, rolling silverware or pre-packaging the wet naps and the napkins and the silverware and the containers and getting stuff prepped and ready to go to expedite that process, or to have them as greeters to hand the food to people coming up to reduce contact points and the people coming through the restaurant to pick up the food at the counter, for example. I think there's opportunity there. And one other thought would be, if you have the means, you know, if you've got a little bit saved and you've always been thinking about, you know, repainting your dining room or changing out the ceiling tiles, use your existing staff and get them some paint rollers. You know, go to Lowe's and buy some new ceiling tiles and start putting that stuff up. This could be an opportunity to make some of those physical changes that you've wanted to make to your establishment, but you never wanted to close the doors. So we're kind of in a forced situation here where the doors are closed. So what can you do during that time? And that falls perfectly into Tim's point about, hey, when you come back, this is what's waiting. So again, that whole big reveal could pull a big burst of traffic through the door when everything opens back up again.
Even use waitresses maybe to take orders and try to add phone lines, because you may need to. The worst thing is if you keep getting a busy signal, you know, if you could add a phone line or two and have your waitresses staff the phones and be able to take orders. That would be a great way to.
Or staff the message board, you know, take orders on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever means you can get them. The easier you can make it for people to get that request in, the better. So if you have 2 or 3 people sitting there on iPhones or iPads or Android, whatever it is, messaging back and forth, that could be a big help. And even just maybe not even taking orders, just answering questions. People, to Brody's point, are you open? You know, you're going to get that question a lot. And you're going to get questions about sanitation, safety, who's bringing me my food. There are going to need to be people able to answer those questions.
I think it's an important time to kind of circle back to Tim's. Don't be afraid to talk to your distributor representative about value-added products. Some establishment, that can be kind of a bad word. Right now, if you're strapped and you need to find a way to realign your resources, value-added products have come a long way over the last number of years, and there's absolutely a number of products that can help you save time, back of house, execute good, consistent final products for your customers, and still drive repeat business. Yes, you will pay more for some, but it will allow you greater flexibility in the long run. And what does that mean? Once you find out what you want to be doing, having the ability to cut some corners like that and redeploy your labor can be tremendously helpful. It's not a bad word, value added. There's a lot of good products out there, and any of your distributor reps will be able to bring you a number of different items. Just let them know what you're thinking, and there's going to be something out there that can be of assistance and help you, especially right now when labor is going to be important, all of that. So.
Fantastic. Well, that's our 5 topics, gentlemen. Any closing thoughts from anybody on these? We've covered transitioning from a full service menu to a takeout delivery model, what we can sell effectively and effective menu planning, takeout packaging, packaging that works for your food, effective messaging to your customers, and maximizing resources and your labor.
I'd be happy to start. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share some of my ideas with you all. Don't be afraid to be that community resource to help bring normalcy to your people. Normalcy to the people in your community. Once you have an idea of how you can effectively execute a takeout menu that still fits your style and can travel, don't be afraid to be creative and think outside of the box. What else can you add to that? How are you going to communicate that to the people around you, to your customer base? And don't be afraid to be creative. Right now is the time to really try something that's a little bit outside of the box. There's nothing wrong with value added. It can definitely help at times like these. And most of all, just use your establishment as a vehicle to help bring normalcy to your community in these times, because that's going to be the most value you can bring, period.
For me, I think it's don't be afraid to use your resources. You have many resources out there, whatever they may be. Your sales reps, fellow chefs in the industry. There are so many people that are in the same position as you are. So now is probably not the best time to just think, well, you know what, they're doing their thing. I'll just, whatever. Get together with these people, your peers, and brainstorm things. I mean, everybody's in this together. So use your surrounding chefs, account executives. Feel free and be eager to ask as many questions as possible until you get through this.
I would just say you can look at this as, a real burden, or you can look at it as an opportunity. And I would request or ask that you look at it as an opportunity, and not just that, it's an opportunity for you to be a positive influence and a positive light within your community, and to offer, like Brody said, some normalcy for these folks who are in their houses. And I think if you're able to take the right attitude about this and really look at this as an opportunity to serve your community, then I think everything else will fall into place.
When you're going to social media, when you're getting your message out there, I think to be a point of comfort, to Brody's point, to really capture hearts and minds and make people know that you're there for them, the use of video is going to be a very powerful tool. If you have the comfort level and the capability to go live on Facebook or Instagram, to put yourself out there, people will respond to that. They want to see that face to face. They want to see the person, because they're going to be cooped up by themselves, with their families, that might get old pretty quick. So if you can be that face that they see and you've got a message for them that's comfort food and chocolate, that'll resonate now and they'll remember it later. All right, gentlemen, well, thank you very much. Our goal with this is to get this chopped up and out to other distributors so that they can share with their customers in a very much a rising tide raises all ships come together type effort. So I really appreciate all of your time. And if we see that there are responses and questions and people want more of this, hopefully we can reconvene in the near future.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.